popular, so he tried to provide all the free wine. That didn't work very well. So this was phase 2 of his impress the Scottish and get them to like me plan. But there are a couple of problems with the statue. So, more observational stuff. Can somebody shout at me what Charles is wearing?
A kilt.
Kilt.
A kilt?
Not a kilt, but it looks like a kilt. Like, for example, notice what he's wearing on his head. Like, you've heard of the ancient Egyptians. You've heard of the ancient Greeks. So you've also heard of the ancient Greeks, ancient Egyptians, another same Romans. Ancient Romans. Exactly. Charles II looks like a Caesar. He's got his sort of like all his leaves about his head, etc. The Scottish people thought this was a bit weird. Like, why are you wearing Roman dress? Like, it's a couple hundred years later after that. So they laughed pretty hard. Now Charles, if you also look at the statue, you will see he's riding a horse. But what is the statue missing that you generally need to ride a horse? A saddle. Okay, that's multiple high fives, fist bumps over there, because I heard it from loads of people. He is not wearing a saddle. And one last detail which is perhaps less obvious is that Charles II was quite a short man. So in this statue, they made him taller, but they failed to make his horse bigger as well. So the horse is too small for him in the statue. So the joke in Edinburgh used to be that your king was going to a fancy dress party riding a donkey. People found this pretty funny, so they laughed away. So this is where the Parliament used to be. So you had all these parliamentarians who heard everybody laughing. Back then, laughing at your king was equivalent to treason. So they knew they had to do something about this. So they told Charles II, he was like, well, just give them another party. So that's what they did. They got a bunch of little orphan kids, and every year, the orphan kids would climb up the statue and crown the lead statue with a big old bronze crown. Now, lead is a pretty soft metal, and bronze is pretty heavy. So after a few years, little holes used to actually bore away in the top of the head. You might have noticed that it rains quite a lot in Scotland. So the statue actually started to fill up with water and tilt to one side. So the new joke at Edinburgh was that your king was going to a fancy dress party, riding a donkey, who was quite drunk. So the people laughed more. And once again, the officials had a serious problem on their hands. They're like, oh, it's simple. We'll just drain the horse. We'll drill the hole in the horse. We'll drill the hole in the hindquarters of the horse. So whenever it rained and you came around the corner, you would see your king going to a fancy dress party, riding a donkey, who was drunk, who was relieving itself all over Parliament. The people laughed even harder, and the situation got so bad that they actually had to erect modesty boards all around the statue, so that all you could see was Charles II's head peeking out over the top. Eventually, the officials had the very bright idea of perhaps filling in the holes at the top of the head, straightening the statue and doing away with the crown ceremony. So now you're basically having Charles riding an ass through Parliament Square. He was a pretty clever guy. So moving from the statue to the car park that we currently find ourselves in. This used to actually be the most popular graveyard in the city. So they buried people 6 feet deep, and it got a bit full. So they started burying them at 4 feet deep, or 5 until they started burying them at 2 feet deep. It rains quite a lot in Scotland. So you'd be off to see your Aunt Marge, lying in her grave, pay your respects, and you would literally be met face to face with Aunt Marge in all her rotted flesh and glory. Got just a little bit unpleasant. So they decided to move all the bodies here over into Greyfriars Churchyard, where we're going to go in the second half of the tour. But there is one body that is still here in Greyfriars Churchyard, and that is the body of John Knox. John Knox was the minister of the High Kirk here at St. Giles, and he was one of the sort of founding members of the Scottish Presbyterian Church. He used to be a Catholic priest, but then converted and became a very austere Calvinist Protestant.